What if I told you Canon just dropped a camera that looks identical to its predecessor, but hides upgrades so powerful they could redefine what a $2,800 hybrid camera can do? This is the Canon EOS R6 Mark III, and today we're putting it head-to-head against the R6 Mark II to answer one burning question. Is that $800 difference really worth it? Welcome to Byte Leaks, where we decode cameras so you can make smarter, creative choices. If you're new here, consider subscribing, because what's coming next could save or cost you thousands. We break down every spec, every rumor, every hidden detail that manufacturers don't want you to notice. And today's comparison might just change how you think about camera value forever. At first glance, the R6 Mark III and Mark II look like twins. Same body, same grip, same control layout. Canon didn't reinvent the wheel here, and honestly, they didn't need to. But under the hood, the differences are dramatic, especially for hybrid creators who live between stills and video. The Mark II gives you 24.2 megapixels, the Mark III, 32.5. The Mark II shoots 4K at 60 frames per second, oversampled from 6K. The Mark III leaps to 7K. RAW 4K at 120 frames per second, and open-gate full-sensor recording. The Mark II offers 8 stops of in-body image stabilization. The Mark III pushes that to 8.5. The MK2 uses dual SD card slots. The Mark III upgrades to one CF Express Type B slot plus one SD, and swaps the micro HDMI for a full-size Type A port. And the price? The Mark I sits comfortably around $2,000 to $2,300. The Mark III launches at $2,800. Canon didn't just bump specs. They rewired this camera for the next 5 years. But let's break it down by what actually matters when you're out shooting. When deadlines are tight, when the light is fading, and when you need a camera that doesn't get in the way of your vision, the jump from 24 to 32.5 megapixels doesn't sound massive until you start cropping. That's 34% more pixels to play with, which means tighter framing, larger prints, and more post-production freedom. For landscape or portrait shooters, that's a real edge. Imagine shooting a wedding ceremony from the back of the venue. With the Mark III, you can crop in tighter on the couple's faces without losing detail. Or picture a wildlife shooter who catches a bird in flight but wants to emphasize just the head and eyes. That extra resolution gives you room to breathe, room to experiment, room to fix mistakes. But there's a catch. More megapixels mean bigger files, more storage, and longer transfer times. One user on Reddit put it perfectly. I'd actually prefer 24 megapixels over 32.5. It's faster, cleaner, and still beautiful. And they're not wrong. If your workflow is speed over size, the R6 Mark II's 24 megapixel sweet spot might just be perfect. You can shoot all day, dump your cards, and start editing within minutes. No lag, no waiting, just pure creative flow. But if you're the kind of photographer who crops aggressively, prints large for galleries, or needs every ounce of detail for commercial work, that extra resolution becomes invaluable. It's about having options when the client asks for a vertical crop from a horizontal shot, or when you need to zoom into a detail you didn't even notice during the shoot. Now here's where Canon went full beast mode. The R6 Mark III shoots 7K raw light internally. No external recorder needed, no cables, no rigging, just pure cinema-grade footage straight from the camera body. Add 4K at 120 frames per second for slow motion, an open-gate full-sensor readout, and suddenly, this $2,800 body feels like a mini cinema rig that would have cost 5 times as much just 3 years ago. Compare that to the R6 Mark II's 4K at 60 frames per second, which already impressed creators, but stops there. Don't get me wrong, 4K 60 is beautiful. It's more than enough for most YouTube videos, corporate work, even some indie films, but it doesn't give you those buttery slow-motion shots at 4K resolution. It doesn't give you that 7K raw flexibility in post where you can reframe, stabilize, and color grade with incredible latitude. This time, Canon clearly aimed to attract serious hybrid filmmakers who need tools that don't compromise. Videographers who've been eyeing Red or Sony Cinema line but couldn't justify the cost. Creators who want to deliver Netflix-quality footage but also need to shoot stills at a wedding the next day. But remember, more power means more demands. Faster CF Express cards that can cost $200 for a single high-capacity card. Bigger drives because a single-day shoot might generate half a terabyte of footage. Heavier editing workloads because 7K RAW files will bring older computers to their knees. So, if you're not editing RAW or slow-motion content regularly, you might never touch those top specs. And that's okay. Not every creator needs the bleeding edge. Sometimes the tools you already have are more than enough to tell the stories you want to tell. If your content lives mostly on YouTube, Instagram, or the web, the Mark II's 4K 60 frames per second might give you 90% of the image quality for 70% of the price. And let's be honest, most viewers won't notice the difference between 4K 60 and 7K RA when they're watching on a phone screen during their morning commute. Here's the twist. The R6 Mark III can literally capture moments before they happen. Its new pre-continuous shooting mode records 20 frames before you fully press the shutter. The camera is always buffering, always ready, so when action unfolds, you've already caught it. Imagine a bird taking off, a bride tossing her bouquet, or a child splashing into a puddle. You get the perfect moment, even if your reaction is a split second late. Paired with Canon's upgraded dual-pixel COS-AF Mark II, which recognizes up to 10 faces and locks on instantly, the Mark III feels almost psychic. The Mark II still offers excellent autofocus, but the Mark III goes from intuitive to instinctive. It anticipates and adapts to how you shoot. And if this breakdown is helping you see which camera fits your creative vision, consider hitting that subscribe button right now. And if you want exclusive content, comparisons, and in-depth buying guides that go way beyond what we can cover in these videos, join our channel membership. The website link is right there below this video. IBIS gets a slight bump from 8 to 8.5 stops. It's not huge on paper, but in practice, it's noticeable. You'll see smoother handheld footage in sharper stills in low light. Those extra half stops mean you can push your shutter speed lower, use longer lenses without a tripod, and walk and talk without jitter. Think about shooting a documentary in a dimly lit cathedral. With 8 stops, you might need to bump your ISO to 3200. With 8.5 stops, you can stay at 1600, preserving more dynamic range and cleaner shadows. Or imagine vlogging while walking through a crowded market. That extra stabilization means the difference between footage that's usable and footage that's cinematic. Body design remains nearly identical. Canon played it safe because when it works, it works. So, if you already own the R6 Mark II, you'll feel instantly at home with the Mark III. The grip fits your hand the same way. The buttons fall under your fingers in the same familiar pattern. The menu system, while updated, maintains the same logical flow. No learning curve, just more power under your fingertips. And for professionals who need to deliver results immediately, that familiarity is worth its weight in gold. You can pick up the Mark III and start shooting at full speed within minutes, not days or weeks. Here's where we get real. The Mark III doesn't just cost $800 more. It's more expensive to own and operate. It uses CF Express Type B cards, which are fast but pricey. A decent 128GB card costs around $150 to $200, while the same capacity SD card for the M2 goes just $40 to $60. And that's just the start. Shooting 7K RAW generates massive files, roughly 300 to 500 gigabytes in a single day. That means you'll need larger SDS, extra hard drives for backups, and maybe even cloud storage. Editing such heavy footage also demands a powerful computer, so you could be looking at an unplanned laptop or desktop upgrade. What begins as an $800 price gap can quickly balloon into a $2,000 ecosystem shift. So, before upgrading, ask yourself, do you really need 7K, 4K at 120? Will clients pay more for that quality? Will your audience even notice the difference if your work mostly lives on YouTube or Instagram? For most creators, the Mark II delivers 90% of the image quality for about 70% of the total investment. But if you're someone who hates limits, who wants every tool ready for future projects, the Mark III can be a smarter, long-term choice. It's not just a camera upgrade. It's an investment in capability you might not use today, but will absolutely grow into tomorrow. All right, let's talk real use cases. Who should upgrade to the Mark III? If you shoot professional weddings, corporate films, or cinematic YouTube content where production value matters. If you regularly push slow motion, RAW, or open gate formats for maximum post-production flexibility. If you want maximum autofocus reliability and future-proof performance that won't feel outdated in 3 years. If you plan to keep your camera for 4 to 5 years minimum and want a body that grows with your skills, then the Mark III is calling your name. But stay with or buy the Mark II if you're mainly a still shooter focused on portraits, landscapes, travel, where 24 megapixels is more than sufficient. If you prioritize portability, workflow speed, or smaller file sizes that keep your storage costs manageable. If you'd rather spend that $800 on a better lens that will transform your image quality more than extra megapixels ever could, or a gimbal that opens up new creative possibilities, or lights that give you control over every scene, then the Mark II remains one of the best all-rounders ever made. Bottom line, the R6 Mark III is evolution, not revolution. But for the right creator, it's the difference between limits and possibilities. It's the difference between saying, I can't do that with my current gear, and saying, let me try something ambitious. So, Canon R6 Mark III versus Mark I, the $800 difference. It changes everything. If you're the kind of creator who will use it, if you'll push those specs to their limits, if you'll explore every feature and squeeze every ounce of capability from the sensor, for hybrid shooters who need both stills and video at the highest level, for video pros who've outgrown entry-level bodies, for anyone future-proofing their setup for the next 5 years of creative evolution, go Mark III. You won't regret the investment. For still-first shooters who occasionally dabble in video, for travel vloggers who value portability over raw specs, for anyone on a budget who needs to maximize value while still getting professional results, the Mark II remains a masterpiece in its own right. It's a camera that will serve you beautifully for years to come. Either way, both are winners. It just depends on your story, your workflow, and your priorities on whether you need the absolute cutting edge or whether excellent is good enough. And if you want to go even deeper, join our channel membership. Links in the description. Thanks for watching, Byte Leaks. If this helped you decide, drop a comment. Are you going Mark II or Mark III? What's your shooting style? What features matter most to you? Hit like, subscribe, and let's keep this conversation going. Your insights help other creators make better decisions, and we read every single